I got into Dungeons and Dragons in the 1980s. I played all through late high school, and I played all through college, and then I played through graduate school. I was trying to get my girlfriend into playing, and we started a game at that table. A friend of mine had said, you should watch Harmon Quest, and I started watching Harmon Quest. And then afterward I was like, I want more. So my girlfriend had started watching The Adventure Zone with, I'm trying to remember what they are, but they're brothers. And then I was like, I want more. Finally, I said, let's start to watch Critical Role. I've heard so many things about it.
How I got introduced to Critical Role was through my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time. He had been a lifelong D&D player. I had never played it. My first exposure was watching it on Stranger Things. And my boyfriend, now my husband, was like, oh, well, it's still a game that you could play. Why don't we play it if you'd like? So I was like, well, I don't know. Let me see how other people play it. So when we first started watching Critical Role was when they started the second campaign in 2018. They had just finished their first campaign, and I was like, well, don't we need to watch the first campaign first? Like we can't just jump into a new campaign. And my husband was like, no, they're starting out. The first campaign didn't start out at level 1. They started out at a much higher level. And when we watched the first campaign, it was already in the middle of stuff happening. So he was like, no, the second campaign, they're all starting at level 1. It'll be the first day that a lot of them meet. And I was like, okay, well, if that's the case, yeah, I want to see how it unfolds then for people playing their first starting out character. And that first episode, we tuned in live. We saw it live. It was amazing. And also I wanted to play it because I went to school with Laura Bailey. She was 2 years ahead of me at Allen High School. And so I've been following up on her career. I was part of technical theater, which means we worked on the lights. We worked on the sets. We did everything in support of the actors. And she was one of the most brilliant actresses in the program. She does a lot of voice acting, and Funimation is in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But all the voice actors, they're not afraid to create characters that are not your standard, and they're not afraid to experiment and go different places with that or confront one another. Matt's just amazing. So we fell in love with Critical Role. My husband started setting up D&D campaigns, and our campaign was the first for a lot of our cosplay friends. At one point we're like, oh, we really like this shit. Is it something we should cosplay? And we were like, yeah, let's cosplay, but let's see if other people are cosplaying it. Go to ACON back in 2018. It was in the summer, so we started watching the start of 2018, and then in the summertime we went because Matt Mercer was going to be a voice actor guest there, and the line for his panel was over 2.5 hours.
Jack Cooper in Titanfall 2, in League of Legends as the wolf side of Eamon Wolf, as well as Gangplank. There are more games I can talk about that are I'm still trying to about. I know. But and all of this fine fella, I get to be a nice cowboy in Overwatch.
All his stuff was signed out, like sold out. There was no way we were actually gonna see him face to face. But we got into the panel, which he was there for voice acting, not necessarily Critical Role's voice acting. In the line, there were a lot of critters in dressed up, and James, my husband, was like, oh, there's a lot of people, it's very, it's popular. There's enough people. So we decided, okay, we're gonna cosplay. And at that time we had been catching up on campaign 1, and we're like, okay, let's we could do something easy. We can kind of be Percy and Vex. So it was a few months later that we went to Anime Fest, in 2018. This was after A-Kon. And while we were there, we met two critters who joined the group. It was kind of like the first unofficial meetup. We met Alyssa, she was Bo, and then we met Xander, who was dressed up as Caleb. From there, we're like, all right, there's Critical Role people. They're there, they exist in our area, but we, they were cosplayers we didn't know at that time. So we're like, let's get dressed up as the Mighty Nine. So later in October for Anime North Texas, we're like, let's take it up a level. Actually, James was the one who convinced me to do it, because I was like, ooh, I don't know. Campaign 2, a lot of the characters have full body paint and just stuff we've never done before, but I knew I could do Ford for him. I could make the armor.
I had been cosplaying for some time, but there was part of it was there was a very little male cosplayers, and there was not much camaraderie. And early on, I said, well, it's a female game, and then my fiance, during my time, my girlfriend, she said, well, you can cosplay, and I had basically been thrifting for most of my cosplay, and then after later, she said, well, I'll make your armor, and I learned so much from her about making armor, foam crafting weapons, things like that.
And we went to Anime North Texas for our first Mighty Nine cosplays, and there wasn't anybody else there as Critical Role, but people recognized us, and so at that, James was like, we need to start a group. We need to start a landing place. He chose a Facebook group to add people to, so we could have intentional meetups and meet up with other critters. So that was 2018. In 2019, January 2019, which is so crazy because D&D was first published in 1974. The first publishing is around January. So D&D as a whole is 50 years old, and we're 5 years old, which is so minor. But I think it's really kismet that it kind of aligns this way. So in January 2019, James created the group. We added some people on Facebook that were cosplayer friends of ours that were starting to work on their Critical Role builds. It was kind of slow to find other people in Dallas-Fort Worth that we knew were cosplaying, because at this point Campaign 2 had reached kind of just the 1 year mark, and it wasn't super explosive. It had more growth than Campaign 1. So we were like, well, it's kind of cool. We're starting this baby group. Is there any traction to it? So that year in March of 2019, the Critical Role cast was going to be at Emerald City Comic-Con in Seattle.
And we met Critical Role for the first time. And it was like a dream. It really was. I didn't know what to say. I pushed Marisha Ray aside, and then I just shake Travis's hand. I didn't even know I'd done that, but I did that.
While we were there was part of a huge critter meetup, and we saw the Pacific Northwest Critter group, and to kind of see other groups have, they had already mobilized, they had already put together big meetups. It was like, okay, that's what we could do. That's where we could be at some point. And then the next event was the Scarborough meetup. The same weekend we were at Emerald City Comic-Con, Jerry and Alyssa met up at AllCon, just the two of them. And it was Jerry that set up the Scarborough meetup. Which, from the very beginning, when we added people to the group, James and I didn't seek to gatekeep anything. We added people as admins so that they could, host their own meetups, and that's still true to this day. Other people have ran meetups, like Sarah Warren. She did our first meetup at Anime Fest, which for James and myself was kind of like a homecoming, or meeting that mark of when we first kind of had the unofficial critter group with Alyssa and Xander. So we did about a year of 2019. We were at we hosted different events, mostly cosplay meetups at conventions, and then 2020, you know, the pandemic hit, so that put us down to a lot of that stuff. 2021 was kind of more of the meetups and the Ren Fair meetup, but then like 2022, 2023, you know, they started having the screenings at the movie theater, which we also wanted to be at and recruit more people, because with cosplay and D&D, D&D to this day is still predominantly white males. Cosplay is still predominantly white female. And so with James and myself, we felt like with our group we were right at the intersection of that. And by being cosplay focused, we weren't actually reaching out to a lot of critters. We weren't really, you know, putting ourselves in a place where we could welcome all critters. And so James and I decided to open up the group not just to cosplayers, but Critical Role fans in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, period. We wanted to be inclusive and with showing up at the theaters, there would be people who were not dressed up that just had the most amazing stories. Like we saw this one black girl who had a really awesome jacket that I was like, oh my god, your jacket's amazing. She was like, thanks, Abria had the same one, and it was sold out when it was first released. And then we just spent like the next 10 minutes talking about Abria and how much she has changed the D&D community for the better. And we didn't have our stickers at that time, we didn't change the name, and I just remember telling James, that is the person we should have met and should have made friends with and welcome to the group. And so with that, we changed the names. We opened up the group to not just cosplay, and we started creating stickers, started to market to the larger critter community. Started hosting other events for the critters to come out and hang out, because not everybody can make a convention. Not everybody's comfortable cosplaying, being in the convention space. And Critical Role is so much more than that. Forward.
Well, I would like to have pretty much, you know, everybody. So I would like more than cosplayers. I would like us to be a group that is inclusive of everybody. And I would like, you know, people that are role players, and I would like D&D players, and I want fans. Hundreds of fans to be part of the new DFW Critter Crew.
My hope for our next 5 years is, like James said, like being more inclusive. We have so many people moving to the Dallas-Fort Worth area year after year, every day, and a lot of us don't move because we want to, you know, we like Dallas or anything. It's because you have to. It's because of your job or family or other things you don't control. And we want to be able to just, not just our group, but just everywhere, your work, your job, the country as a whole, we just need more inclusive. And I don't want someone to come, be a critter, be lonely, see us, but then maybe see pictures and it's just like 6 white people in every photo. I want us to be more inclusive, and also at the cosplay meetups to allow just people, no matter what you look like, if you're disabled or not. We're trying to be focused and schedule our meetups to be cognizant of that. So of course being more inclusive. And the second thing is, what we want to do is to give back to our community, right? Because with Critical Role, they have always given and donated to, I think it's the 826 LA charity. That's always been a huge part of what they do. And as a community of critters, especially with funding for the animated series, there's really no limit to what we can accomplish together. And so I would like to move a little into that space of where we either donate time or maybe like groceries to the North Texas Food Bank. So going forward for our meetups, we'll try and either donate a couple hours at an event to volunteer, or take donations. despite us living in areas like Plano that have more money, North Texas still has a huge community of people who don't have enough to eat, don't have a place to be, and it doesn't have to be worldwide charities. We can accomplish and help the people in our own home. That's part of what I like about D&D, and also like Baldur's Gate. You come into an area and you leave it better than when you arrived. And I think that's just true to Critical Role and the legacy that we can all contribute to and help the people in our direct area.